When you think of Japanese food, what comes to mind? Probably sushi, right? Maybe some ramen. And yeah, those are amazing, a huge part of the culture. But there's this whole other side to Japanese cuisine, a side with flavors and textures that, well, they can really stop you in your tracks. And that's the Japan we're going to explore today. Imagine this. You're in Japan, sitting at a restaurant, and a dish is placed in front of you. You look at it, and your first honest thought is just, wait, people actually eat this? It's not a judgment, right? It's just this moment of pure, unfiltered shock, like you're genuinely questioning what you're seeing. And right after that first question, another one usually pops into your head. Is this even food? It's a real question. It kind of challenges everything you've ever thought about what's edible and what's not. We all have that line, that boundary our own culture helps us draw. Well, today, we're going to take a look at where Japan draws its line. But here's the thing. That's where the real story begins. Because the very things that look so bizarre, maybe even a little unsettling to us, they're actually cherished delicacies in Japan. And each one has this incredible story to tell about the culture, the history, and what makes this country tick. All right, so here's what we're going to dive into. We'll start with natto, which is a real puzzle. Then we'll tackle sashimi and the whole idea of eating raw. After that, we'll look at a Sendai specialty called gyutan and finish with uni, a true treasure from the sea. And through it all, we're really going to get a taste of the culture itself. Okay, let's kick things off with what is probably the most famous and, let's be honest, the most feared food in Japan for a lot of foreigners. We're talking about natto. This stuff it's the final boss for adventurous eaters, for sure. So the first time you come across natto, it's a full-on sensory assault. It's not just one thing, it's everything at once. First, you get hit with the smell. It's pungent, really powerful. People say it smells like ammonia or strong cheese. And then you try to pick it up with your chopsticks and you see the texture. Oh man, the texture. It's so sticky and stringy, it makes these little webs. For a lot of people, that's just a bridge too far. And this really gets to the heart of the issue, right? Your first reaction, my first reaction is probably, whoa, that smells rotten. But that's a total misunderstanding. In Japan, that's not the smell of something gone bad. It's the smell of something being transformed. It's the smell of fermentation, a process they've absolutely perfected. So what is natto, really? Well, at its core, it's just soybeans. But they're fermented with a very specific kind of bacteria. And this whole process, it puts natto right at the center of Japan's amazing fermentation culture. I mean, this is the same tradition that gave us things we all know and love, like miso and soy sauce. It's all about patience and a little bit of science. Okay, so with that smell and texture, why on earth is it so popular here? Well, for one, it's incredibly good for you. It's packed with nutrients, like an enzyme called nattokinase, which is supposedly great for your circulation and bone health. But honestly, it goes way deeper than that. It's about comfort. It's about familiarity. Especially up in the Northeast, it's a breakfast staple. It's a taste that people grew up with. It's the taste of home. And that's the whole journey with natto, isn't it? You start with shock, but then you get to a place of understanding, and for a lot of people, that turns into a real craving. You just learn to read the signs differently. It's this idea that you have to understand something to truly appreciate it. And that theme is going to come up again with our next food. All right, next up, sashimi. Now this one is a global superstar. It's an icon of Japanese food. But let's be real, for a lot of us, the basic idea of just eating raw fish, it still triggers something deep inside, a little alarm bell of hesitation. And look, that hesitation is totally logical. I get it. It all boils down to safety. You think about parasites, things like anisakis or just general food poisoning. And for most of human history, in most cultures, cooking using fire was the thing that made food safe. Eating it raw feels like you're skipping a crucial step. And this fear isn't new. Get this, over 150 years ago, a British naval officer in Japan tried it, and he said the taste was fine, but the idea is not nice. Isn't that perfect? It just shows you how deep-seated this aversion is. The concept itself was just off-putting to him. So you have to ask, how did Japan build an entire culinary art form around something that feels so risky? The answer is they built an incredible system of trust. It's not just one thing, it's a whole chain. It starts on the boat with a technique called ikejimi, which preserves the quality of the fish instantly. Then you have this perfect, unbroken cold chain all the way to the restaurant. Then there's the unbelievable skill of the chef. And on top of all that, there are super strict regulations, sometimes even requiring freezing, just to make absolutely sure it's safe.
And that's why people say this can really only work in Japan. This whole complex, rigorous system, it's the reason the art of sashimi was even possible. It's a system that takes that primal fear we all have and transforms it into this deep, deep respect. Respect for the fish, for the process, and for the person holding the knife. Okay, for our next food, the shock factor isn't about it being raw or fermented. It's about where it comes from. We're talking about gyutan, which is beef tongue. And this is such a cool example of a cultural divide. In the US, for example, beef tongue isn't a big seller. A lot of it actually gets exported. But here in Japan, it's a whole different story. It's not just something you eat, it's something you celebrate. It's a total delicacy, like the star of the show. And the crazy thing is, gyutan isn't some ancient dish that's been around for centuries. It was actually invented after World War II in 1948. A chef in the city of Sendai saw that the American troops were leaving behind the tongues and tails of the cows. So he got resourceful, he started cooking them up, and it became a local hit. Fast forward to the 80s, and boom, it's a national sensation. So the story of gyutan is just a perfect example of Japanese innovation. It comes from this deep cultural idea called mottainai, which is basically this feeling that you shouldn't waste anything. It's about taking something that was overlooked and, through sheer ingenuity, turning it into a culinary superstar, all because of its amazing texture. All right, our last food is, well, it's a challenge for your eyes before it's even a challenge for your mouth. Let's talk about uni, the sea urchin. So, to get why people hesitate, we just have to be straight up about what it is. The part of the sea urchin that you eat, it's the reproductive glands. Yeah. And for a lot of people, just hearing that biological fact, that's where the conversation ends. But here's the crazy paradox of uni. The actual experience of eating it has nothing to do with that definition, or even what it looks like. When it's good, it's not fishy in the slightest. It has this incredible, almost sweet flavor and this buttery, creamy texture that just melts on your tongue. It's really not what you expect at all. And while we think of it as a modern sushi topping, and it really only became popular in the 60s, the salted, preserved version, called a shio uni, has been around for centuries. We're talking about one of Japan's 3 great delicacies. This was food for nobles, a real treasure. So we've gone on quite a journey, haven't we? From fermented soybeans and raw fish to beef tongue and sea urchin. What does it all mean? What have we actually learned here? Let's face it, each and every one of these foods can be shocking at first. They look strange, they can feel intimidating. For someone who didn't grow up with them, they can just feel wrong. And this is the whole point, if you can just push past that initial shock for a second, if you can ask why people eat this, you realize they're not just food, they're stories. They tell you pretty much everything you need to know about Japan. Think about it. Sashimi tells you about a deep, deep respect for freshness. Natto shows you the power of fermentation. Gyutan teaches you about that philosophy of using every single part, of wasting nothing. And uni, that's all about the art of simplicity and the search for incredible textures and flavors. It's not just lunch, it's like a lesson in Japanese values, right on your plate. So that brings us right back to where we started, but with a new question. And this one's for you. Now that you know the stories behind these foods, the culture that created them, if you came to Japan and one of these dishes was put in front of you, would you try it?